Riding can be a lot of fun and it can be very rewarding, but it can also be dangerous and frustrating. The danger can arise because horses are prey animals, and as prey animals they are naturally sceptical and fearful of us as humans, and they are also fearful of changes in environment and changes in energy. If we don't properly prepare a horse to be ridden with a predator on his back and to get used to our environment, who knows what may happen when the horse becomes concerned. Frustration can arise because horses and humans don't speak the same language. So how do we as humans communicate to the horse our desires and wishes, and how do we learn to understand the feedback that the horse is giving us? This video will show you some techniques to better prepare your horse so that you'll have a safer ride, and it shows you how to develop a language of communication that your horse will understand. Riding starts with placing the saddle on, and it is important that we do this politely and in a way that's not offensive to the horse. I'm going to introduce the saddle to my horse and give my horse a chance to check the saddle out. So I'm going to send him over here and give him the time to give it a sniff, make sure it's okay. Okay, he doesn't seem too concerned, as that looks like my saddle pad and my saddle. Traditionally we tend to do a lot of stuff from the near side, and our horses are less friendly to this side of their body. So if I can get into the habit of doing things like saddling and mounting from both sides of my horse is going to be a lot more confident all around. So I'm going to make sure I can politely place the saddle pad on his back, a little bit of approach and retreat there. I'm going to get my saddle. Got my stirrups run up, place the girth over the top of the saddle, and I'm going to hug my saddle onto my horse's back in a friendly way. Place it in position, make sure the equipment fits properly. There's a little bit of an air channel under my saddle. And I'll turn Rocky around so that you can see how I'm going to reach for the girth in a non-threatening manner. I'll adjust my saddle on this side of his body also. Make sure everything's in place. Then I'm going to use the back of my hand to reach under his belly and reach for the girth. I'm going to make sure my toes are pointing either back and away from the horse rather than under. If my horse was to jump forward or get a fright as I placed the girth and my toes were pointing in this position, if I tried to get out of the way in a hurry, I'd do so in an unbalanced fashion. If my toes are like this as I reach for the girth, I can step away more easily if I have to. This is especially important for saddling a young horse. I'm going to do the girth up fairly loosely for starters. If I girth my horse up tight straight away, he's going to start to have a negative association with the girth, and he'll probably start to swish his tail and pin his ears back. And a lot of horses that have been saddled impolitely over the years have those bad habits. If you make a practice of saddling your horse politely every time, those habits will gradually disappear. Once the saddle's been placed on, I'm going to start to move my horse around. Make sure he can move his feet softly with the saddle on. I'll send him out a little bit. Get a bit of a picture of how the saddle fits, making sure he looks comfortable with everything. Move his feet again. and I'll go up another hole. If I had a horse that was particularly cinchy or uncomfortable about the girth, I'd make sure I send him over a little jump, maybe up and down some hills, so that he stretches his rib cage and really feels the girth before I hop on. I'd rather ride all the bucks on the ground. So excuse me while I'm around here just attaching my saddle pad. Okay, I still need to go up another hole or so with my girth, so I'm going to ask Rocky to go at a bit of a trot and maybe a canter before I go to that last hole. Send him out. And the techniques that you're seeing here are all illustrated on our video. It all starts from the ground. So if you need to learn how to teach your horse to circle you like this, move the hindquarters, all of this is shown on that video. And I'd want to make sure that I'd actually established a pretty good relationship on the ground with my horse before I even try and get on his back. So we're starting at a point where we've established a fairly solid relationship on the ground first before we hop on. So I'm assuming here that you can all move your horses around in a circle, walk, trot, canter, move their hindquarters, back them up, send them over some little ditches and logs, and the horses are pretty happy to do so. Now I'm going to tighten my girth up one more hole. I'll move Rocky off the other way, have a little canter to the right. Ask him to move out. Up into the canter. And yield his hindquarters. That all looks pretty good. So he looks quite happy to be wearing the girth and wearing the saddle. Okay, before we get on, we need to be sure that our horse will yield to a steady feel. So can he back off the nose? Can he move his front end around? And can I put my hand back here and ask the hindquarters to move over? This is simulating our leg. And if my horse isn't going to yield to that steady feel on the ground, when I hop on and ask him to yield to my leg, I imagine nothing will happen if it can't happen like this on the ground. So again, we're just setting up a little bit of communication, making sure our horse can yield, can step under and across with his hindquarters and relaxed and accepting of that feel. A very important check before you get on is that you can stand back near the saddle and softly reach down and ask your horse to give you a lateral flexion and release when he's soft. I want to be sure I can do that on both sides. So I'll go over to the other side. I'm going to ask for the same thing here, so you're probably going to lose me for a moment. But I want my horse to keep his feet still and take a nice lateral flex. That's pretty good on both sides. Once that's working, I need to be sure that I can take a lateral flex and then move his hindquarters around and have him maintain that soft flexion. That's soft there. Can he yield his hindquarters? And we'll step under and across. We'll go in a full circle. And then I'm going to ask him to stop and maintain that flexion. And then release. Again, I need to be able to do that on both sides because I'm going to be riding both sides of my horse when I hop on. So I'm going to ask for a flexion, pretty soft. Ask the feet to move around. Yield him round in a full circle. Rub, maintain the flexion, and then release when it's soft. Next thing I need to be able to do is make sure my horse can move sideways to a steady feel. So can I put my hand where my leg would go behind the girth? Ask for my horse to step sideways. And what I really want to watch out for is that when my hand goes on and I ask the horse to start to move, is that he doesn't push back against my hand. I want him to yield away from the feel and not push back against the feel. Again, I'll make sure I can do that on the other side. Hand behind the girth. Ask my horse to move sideways. A few steps, pretty soft. Give my horse a rub. Okay, another little test my horse needs to pass. These are all things to make sure our horse is feeling soft and ready to ride. Can I toss the rope over his head, around the other side of his body, behind his tail, and can I step back, keep walking back, and have my horse follow the feel around and come toward me. It's pretty good. Again, can I do that on the other side? And I like to see my horse give a nice lateral flex as he does this exercise, which he's doing pretty well here. If he was tight and reactive, he might not be ready to hop on. That looked pretty good there too. My last check is, can I run my stirrups down on both sides, and walk with my horse holding the stirrup, putting some rhythm into the stirrup. Is he reactive, or can he accept this? If he's reactive and escaping from this, he may do the same thing if I start to move around in the saddle. So I want to make sure my horse can accept this, first on one side, then on the other. So I'll turn him over and do the other side. Everything we do, we need to do on both sides of the horse. So that doesn't seem to be bothering him. So my horse seems pretty ready to ride. So assuming we've prepared our horse on the ground, using the techniques in the video, it all starts on the ground. We've saddled our horse up and we've checked our horse out. We've made sure he can yield, he'll follow a feel, he'll back up, move his hindquarters, give us some lateral flexion. Everything's going okay, then it's time to get on. You'll notice we're riding in a halter. The reason we ride in a halter initially is we use the halter to establish partnership and control, and we save the bit up for refinement rather than using the bit for control. If we've properly prepared our horse on the ground and the horse is happy to follow a feel from the halter and he's trusting and we can ask for a lateral flex and the horse will respond, then we should be pretty safe to ride in a halter. And as you can see here, we're in an enclosed arena. When you first start trying to ride your horse in a halter, you start in an enclosed space, and it may even be a round yard before you venture out into large open areas. I'm going to mount my horse now, and I'm quite short and my horse is quite tall, so I will be as graceful as I can be, and I'll explain mounting as I go. But it is covered in a great deal of detail in our video, Journey to Softness with a Difficult Horse, where there was a horse that had a real issue with being mounted. And you can see on that video how this technique can keep you safe when you first mount the horse. Okay, so now I'm going to hop on, and I'm going to do everything differently to probably what you learnt at Pony Club or have read in various books on riding. Instead of facing the horse's tail and swinging my leg over, I'm going to put my foot in the stirrup and I'm going to hop around and look at my horse's eye. Okay, so this is a big stretch. All right, get the leg up. Look at my horse's eye, step up. Still looking at my horse's eye, you'll notice I only held the front of the saddle and not the back of the saddle. If I hold the back of the saddle, it will drag the saddle across his back. I'm going to check out the stirrup on the other side, step over. If I got to that point and my horse was a bit uncertain about me hopping on, I could just step straight back down again and not commit myself to stepping on. So if I was at the point where I had my hips locked, like this, I can either hop on or hop off. Now that I'm up here, first thing I need to do is make sure I can take lateral flexion. So I'm holding the rein in the middle. I'm going to lift, slide my hand down, relax this hand, close my fingers one at a time, and ask Rocky to bend around. And when Rocky's soft, I'm going to release the rein. Make sure I can do the other side, lift up, slide my hand down, relax this hand, close the fingers one at a time. When Rocky's soft, release the rein. If I couldn't do that at the halt, I wouldn't walk off, because this is control, lateral flexion for control. Okay. If something goes wrong and I were to bend my horse, for most horses the worst that can happen is they'll run around in a circle. It's like putting the clutch in a car. It's hard for him to engage his hindquarters against me when he's giving me a lateral flex. So if something goes wrong, rather than using 2 reins, which helps the horse to engage, use 1 rein, takes the power away. So if I can ask for a lateral flexion, the next thing I need to do is make sure that my horse is responding to my leg cues. So can I, just like we did on the ground, ask for lateral flexion. On the ground I pull my hand behind the girth and ask the horse to yield his hindquarters. This time I'm going to put my leg back. Can he move the hindquarters? And he learned this on the ground with my hand. Same thing this side. Can I ask for lateral flexion, put my leg back behind the girth, ask the hindquarters to step under and across. Make sure I can do this. I need to be able to disengage the horse's hindquarters at any time for control. So that enabled me to move the hindquarters, a little lateral flex and the leg back behind the girth. Can I move the front end? I'm going to direct with my left rein and I'm going to push with my right leg. And this is just the same as when we move the horse's front end over on the ground. So I need to make sure, come around in a full circle so I can see the camera again, make sure I can move the front end, and I need to be able to do that on both sides. So again, right rein and left leg this time. Can I direct him to the right and push him around with the left leg? And I'm going to focus where I'm going. So my eyes are looking to the right, my body's turned to the right, and my left leg's pushing. Can we go backwards? Can I lift 1 rein, put a little bit of rhythm down the rein, it's lifting, not pulling back, and have my horse come back. If he's responding to 1 rein with rhythm, can I pick up on 2 reins, slowly close my fingers, push my belly button back, and ask the horse to back up with a feel on 2 reins. Reward the try by giving him a release when he does so. The other thing I want to check out before I move off is, can my horse go a little bit sideways? Good way to teach this is to lift, turn your rein over, make a nice bridge. I'm going to look to the right, my left leg on, and if I need to, I could support with a stick or piece of string or something on this side of his body, but my focus is this way. Then the other side. And if you're having trouble with this, you can put your horse's nose on a fence so he stops walking forward, and see if you can cause him to go sideways along a fence off a steady pressure. And if you're really having trouble, you need to go back to the ground and make sure that your horse can yield to a steady pressure behind the girth with your hand. So if my horse can do all these things at the halt, then I feel pretty confident to walk. So off I go. I start moving my horse around the arena. And from the walk, I want to make sure I can do the same things. Can I yield the hindquarters, ask for a bend, put my leg back, move the hindquarters, and walk off. So at the walk, on the right side of his body, I can yield his hindquarters. At the walk, can I do the same thing on the left side of his body? So I'm going to ask for a bend, put my leg back, push the hindquarters away. Yep, that works at the walk. So then can I move the front end away? So my right rein will direct, the left leg will come forward. Can I push the front end over at the walk? Yep, that worked with the right rein and left leg. So now does it work with the left rein and right leg? I've got to make sure it works at the walk before I trot. Yep, front end's moving over. Good. Can I back up from a walk? Walking along, can I pick up right into a back up? That worked? Good. Can I walk off? And can I take a lateral flex and cause my horse to come down to a stop? Works on the left. Let's see if that works on the right. Can I walk along, pick up my right rein, ask for a lateral flex, and see if that can stop my horse. So I feel like I'm pretty safe to trot now. I've got a basic level of communication and acceptance with my horse at very low energy. Start at low energy, build the energy up. So can we move up into a trot? So I'll go a bit further out around the arena now, a bit more space. And I'm going to ride on a nice loose rein here, and wherever my horse is cooperating, I don't need to interfere. And me leaving him alone is how he knows that he's doing okay. So from the trot, and yield the hindquarters down to a walk out of it. That was pretty good. That was right lane and right leg. I'll trot round and then we'll do it on the left side. Always got to check it out on both sides of the horse's body. So we're going to try left rein and left leg, and ask for a bend and push the hindquarters out of the way with my left leg. Yep, can I walk out of it? That worked. Can I trot off with a squeeze, release when he goes? Can I do some nice turns now? Right rein and left leg, will my horse turn around? That was pretty good. Left rein and right leg. Lead the front end and push it around. Yep, that was pretty good. And can I come down to a back up from a trot? That seems to be working. Can we trot off? And from the trot, I need to know that I can bend my horse back to a stop if something were to go wrong. So I'll check that out on the right hand side. Relax down into a halt. I'll hold the bend until his feet are still and he's soft in my hand. And I'll relax. Seems to work on the right. Trot off. Need to make sure this works on the left. Can I relax down, bend him back to a stop? Seems to work there as well. Okay, so we've established basic communication at the walk and at the trot. So now we can try a canter. So you'll notice that we started everything at very low energy in a controlled environment. We made sure that the horse could respond to our cues, follow a feel, respond to our direction, but we kept it slow and at low energy. And once everything was working slowly, then we gradually built up the speed. So now it's time to check out the canter. So let's see what happens here. So now I'm in the canter. I want to make sure I can use my left hand and my left leg to yield my horse down to a walk. Can he move his hindquarters across and under and walk off? Can I canter off to the right? Do the same thing with my right hand and my right leg. Yield down, push with my leg, have those hindquarters step across and under. Seems to work okay. Can I canter off? Have my horse come down to a back up from the canter. So can I pick up, slide my hands down, close my fingers slowly, ask my horse to back up for a few steps. That looks pretty good. Can I canter in? And can I bend my horse back to a stop just with one rein, which is what I'll need to have in place if things get a bit messy. So can I pick up, relax my body, relax my other hand down, and wait for my horse's feet to be still, wait for his nose to be soft, then release. So that works on the left. Does it work on the right? Pick up a right canter lead, and I do the same thing with my right hand. Pick up with my left, slide my right hand down, relax this hand down onto the saddle, relax my body, and just wait for my horse's feet to be still, and relax. Now I didn't ask my horse to walk off there, so I'll just back him up a couple of steps and see if he can just relax now, bring his energy back down. So now that I've got a basic language of communication working at the walk, trot, canter, I can yield the horse at all three gaits. It's time to do what we call a little bit of passenger riding, and we'll explain that more in the next scene. As a herd animal and a prey animal, horses use flight for survival. If you think of a herd of horses in a natural environment, They would travel throughout the day from one pasture to another looking for water, and they'd travel mainly at walk and trot. Canter would be reserved for flight or fight or very high energy play, and associated with that would be large releases of adrenaline. When we canter a horse, innately their energy comes up. Some horses more so than others start to kick into like a real survival mode, and they get big releases of adrenaline. So we actually have to work with horses, starting at low energy, gradually building up the energy, and teach them that they can be comfortable and relaxed at higher levels of energy, because it's not a natural thing for a horse to go at a high speed and stay relaxed. So passenger riding, which I'm going to demonstrate to you in this arena, is a great way to help a horse get comfortable to movement and to energy around him, starting at low energy and then gradually at higher and higher levels of energy. So what I need to do is make sure that my horse is relaxed at the halt. He's looking pretty relaxed here. So can I toss my rope around? As you can see, I've only got one rein because I'm really not going to influence Rocky's movement that much in this arena. I've only got one rein in case things start to get a bit messy and I'll be able to bend him back to a stop. My goal here is to be a good passenger and just to help Rocky maintain the gait that I request, and then help him get friendly to movement and energy around him at that level of energy. So I can do quite a lot of stuff here at the halt, and Rocky's not that concerned. If I couldn't do this at the halt, there's no way I'd try it at the walk, and I'd play around with some things like this on the ground before I even try to do it in the saddle. But I'm pretty happy with how things are looking here at the halt, so I'm going to walk off. Now I may have to steer Rocky a little bit just in case he runs over the camera, but other than that I'm going to pretty much allow him to go where he wants. And when Rocky's relaxed into a walk, I'm going to see if I can toss the rope around him, make sure this is okay, this sort of thing. Is he relaxed and comfortable with energy at the walk? Now, if my horse was bothered by this, I'd walk for a long time and just gradually start to build up the number of things I could do at the walk and have my horse stay relaxed. So now I'm going to ask my horse to trot. I've done quite a lot of this stuff with Rocky because he used to be quite a scared horse, so he's quite good with this now. So he's trotting okay. I'm just going to have to ask him to turn here so he doesn't get too close to the camera, and then I'm going to leave him alone. And can I toss the rope around? So keep trotting, Rocky. Can I do this sort of thing while he's trotting? If Rocky were to get worried and run off here, I could reach down and I could bend him back to a stop, and I could start again at low energy. So I could start again at the halt, then at the walk, and then gradually build back up to the trot. So because we've established a language where we can bend our horse back at any gait, we're pretty safe here as long as we've got one rein for lateral flexion. So Rocky's looking pretty relaxed at the trot. So can I build up the energy? What would happen if I tried to do this at the canter? And I've just got to steer away from the camera a little bit, then I'm going to leave him alone. Can I toss the rope around? It's good for your coordination and your timing. Rocky going. Can I swing this rope around? And I need to make sure at the canter this is working on both leads. Sometimes a horse can be relaxed on one lead and not on the other. So I'll make sure I can do this around to the left. Swing this rope around. And I rub him all over. Make sure my horse is pretty safe and relaxed and not concerned. all these levels of energy. And relax down to a stop. So that was pretty good. I was able to check my horse out at walk, trot, canter, plenty to energy at all these gaits. But if your horse isn't friendly at the halt, he's not going to be friendly at the walk, highly unlikely that he'll be friendly at the trot, and he'll be downright dangerous at the canter. So you need to make sure that you gradually build up to different levels of speed and energy and make sure your horse is friendly to movement. And do it in an enclosed environment. Okay, once this is in place, then we open the gate and out we go. For these next two sections, I'm using my young horse Milton. Milton, he's had about 3 months worth of solid work. He's a young warm blood horse, and he's up to the point of just starting to have the bit introduced and wearing the bridle. But I'm going to start off in the halter and show you what I'd like to have my horses achieving before I introduce the bit. I haven't used Milton for the entire video to date because he doesn't have the fitness or the concentration to go the distance, but I will use him for these next two scenes. Up until now, I've made sure that Milton and I have a language of communication that we both understand, that he's comfortable with different levels of energy. I can toss ropes all over him, walk, trot and canter. I can walk, trot and canter with him out in the open paddock, and he's pretty relaxed and he'll yield and follow my commands. So now it's time to start working on some accurate patterns, refining our level of communication and getting some clear cues and aids in place, and also start to get more particular about the way in which Milton places his feet. As we've mentioned on our video, it all starts from the ground. The alpha horse or lead horse in a herd gains that position by being able to accurately place the herd's feet. So the alpha horse or lead horse in a herd can move the herd's feet in any direction at any speed and at any time. So I need to prove to Milton as a rider that I'm a rider and human that he can trust, so that I'm not going to cause him any harm, I'm not going to threaten him in any way, but I'm also his leader because I can accurately place his feet, and this is where accurate patterns come into play. So I'm going to go onto this circle here with 4 witches' hats and use that to help me focus and start to ask for accurate transitions on cue. As you can see here, I'm riding Milton in a rope hackamore, which is a little bit different to the halter with the lead rope and clip. The hackamore is more comfortable because it hasn't got the weight of the clip bouncing around. The rope's actually spliced onto the bottom of this halter, tied off as reins, and Milton's pretty comfortable in this equipment. So out we go onto our circle. Need to focus. To ask Milton to go forward, I'm going to squeeze with both legs, and if he doesn't respond, I'm going to use some rhythmic motion with my stick here. But I want to try and get snappy departures. Okay, onto my circle. Milton's what we would call a short horse or a horse without much go. So I really need to make sure that I get snappy departures on cue. He's just having a little shy here as we go past the pile of jump wings and piles. I'm not going to get too concerned, but I'm going to ask Milton to maintain an inside flex on the circle. I'm not too worried about any sort of vertical flexion at this stage, but I do want to make sure that his body is following the arc of the circle rather than a reverse arc. So I'm going to apply a little bit of inside leg and inside rein, inside leg, then inside rein, and release. Inside leg, inside rein, release. Inside leg, inside rein, release. To make sure his nose is following the line of the circle. Now I'm going to start doing some transitions here, just a little shy there. So I'm going to wait till I get to the next witch's hat. I can see if we can do a downward transition here. A little bit of outside rein and release. Allow him to walk forward, and at this next witch's hat, I'm going to ask for a trot transition, and I'm going to expect a snappy departure. So I'm going to close both legs. Good. Okay, and my legs came off as soon as Milton was willing to go forward into the trot. So again, I'm going to focus a quarter of a circle ahead, so from one witch's hat to the next. And I'll ask for a walk transition here. Good. So I sat down in the saddle, relaxed my body a little, and just asked a little on the outside rein. And again, I'm expecting a snappy departure. I'm going to lift my energy, close both my legs. Good. Okay. And let's see if we can ride into a halt. A bit more preparation required. Try and stop with my body on the marker. So I had to ask a little sooner because Milton's not quite up to stopping in an engaged fashion straight into a halt at this stage, but I would like to try and halt with my shoulder on the marker. And let's see if we can move up into a trot. Not too bad. Okay, nice for his nose to be tipped to the inside. Let's see if we can halt at this marker. Sit down, outside rein. Pretty good. And I'm giving him a release every time he responds to my requests. Ask him to trot on. Not bad. So we're just getting a basic communication here. And I'm going to ask for a canter. And what I'm going to do is sit down, put my inside leg on the girth, my outside leg back, and ask Milton to canter off. But as Milton's a young horse who is not that solid on his canter transition, I'm going to have my whip in my outside hand, and I'm going to use my stick on the outside hind leg if he doesn't respond to my cue. The outside hind leg is the first leg in the canter depart, so this will help stimulate that outside hind to get the canter transition. So I wait till I'm on the top half of the circle so you can see what I do here. Ask for an inside flex. I'm going to sit down, inside leg on, outside leg back, and I just gave him a little touch there with a stick. Re-establish the canter. Wasn't too concerned yet. He cantered off and then he tripped and came back to trot. Again, he's a young horse, I'm not going to be too concerned. The only thing is he stays relaxed and trot transition. Good. Okay, so he's trying pretty hard here. We'll see if we can do a better job at the canter depart this time. Let's see if we can do it without tripping. So again, at this marker, sit down, leg back. Okay, not quite snappy enough. And trotting, outside rein. Good, and into a nice rising trot. Get his attention off that little corner there. Sit down, outside leg back, into leg on. A little better. Ugh. We're in the middle of a major drought here at the moment and there's so much dust around. We're buying in a lot of water. We're not able to hose the arena down. So we have to negotiate dust. Okay, and into trot, outside rein, into a nice forward trot, and back to a walk. Okay, I'm just going to move through the circle. So I've got some basic transitions established. I'll just make sure they're working in the other direction. Then we're going to go on to a pattern called sideways on the circle or landing the plane. But I'll just check out my transitions on the left rein, talk through what I'm going to do again. I'm going to try and do my transitions on a witch's hat to give me a focus. Okay, so Milton's seeing this pile of jumps and wings for the first time out of his right eye. Okay, close both legs. Good, that was pretty nice. Okay, so we're getting a snappy departure from walk to trot. Not so good trot to canter to the other side, but that's okay. His right canter leads his weaker lead. Let's see if we can halt at this witch's hat. Same, a little bit outside rein, release, say thank you. Close the legs, walk forward. Let's see if we can trot. Again, the reins are mostly loose. I'm just asking for an inside flex, not too worried about a vertical flex. If he gives it to me, that's fine, but I don't mind if I have it that much or not at this stage. I'm mainly looking for a lateral flex onto the circle. And hold, sit down, outside rein, release, good job. And then can you trot on? Good boy. And we'll try the cant. I'm going to put the stick in my outside hand and we'll see if we can do it as we come past the camera. Outside leg back. Okay, and he picked up a right lead, that's okay. Bring him back. Wait for the trot to be balanced up. We'll try again as you come past the camera. Need a flex to the left. Sit down, outside leg back. Good boy. Not too bad. It's good enough for a young horse. What's nice here is he's maintaining a rhythm. I'm not having to work hard to keep him going, and he's not running off either. So I'm pretty happy. See if I can trot here. A little bit of outside rein. Suck back a little bit there, but that's okay. I'd like to try and keep them moving forward in the transition. See if we can canter again. He's just got a little bit of an outside flex there where the camera is because he's looking at it out of one eye. So I'll try up here. Now he's showing at the jump wing. That's better. Okay, and I'm going to ask Milton now to come into a yielding pattern. Sideways on the circle, landing the plane. I'm going to take up a concentrated rein position, inside leg on. See if I can push Milton sideways, staying on the line of the circle without him purging forward. And hold. Okay. Relax. Allow him to come forward. And I'll do that again at a slower gait so you can actually see what happened there. I'm going to be riding along on a casual or loose rein. I'm going to shorten my reins up and get a nice connection on two reins. Slide my hands down. Two hands on the reins with a nice connection. I'm going to take a little inside flex, push his hindquarters away, my inside leg, and then ask him to move sideways for a few steps along the line of the circle till he feels nice and soft. Hold and relax. Say thank you. Whatever my horse is chewing on something like this, I'm just going to leave him alone. He's digesting a thought, and hopefully that thought was, if I stay nice and soft, I get comfort or I get a reward. I'm riding forward, straight through the circle. And this time I'm going to do it from the trot. So when I get back out of the line of my circle, I'll ask Milton to trot off. Okay, he's trying to go a little sideways there, so maybe I need to ride him forwards a bit. So I'll just ride a full circle. So you can see how he was starting to drift a little sideways and anticipate the yield. It's very important that he's thinking forwards first. So we'll have him, that's better. Trot round. I'm going to slide both hands down the reins, ask for a connection, take a little inside flex, push his hindquarters away with my inside leg, and ask him to go sideways for a few strides, and then hold. And if I need to support my leg with my stick, I'll put a little bit of rhythm into it. Just a soft rhythm. It might either be on the shoulder or the hip, whichever part of the body feels like it needs a bit of help. Again, I'll ride Milton forwards through the circle. This is a really powerful exercise, this sideways on the circle pattern. Helps horses to get soft and yielding, or supple. Gives them confidence in accepting a feel on two reins. Ask Milton to trot on. And we need to have control of the horse's hindquarters at any speed. Make sure I've got an inside flex here. Now Milton's just pushing on my inside leg a bit as I go through that turn, so I'm just going to go straight into this yielding pattern. It's having a little shy at those jumps, so rather than except in pushing against my leg and counter-arcing to look at the jumps, I'm going to go into that yielding pattern. And I'm going to come out on the same rein and do that again. So it's very useful in this type of situation. If I put my inside leg on, I expect some sort of response. So that's better there through that turn. Good. The horse must never push on the alpha, whether we are on the ground or in the saddle. So little patterns like this help establish in the horse's mind that we're the ones that do the pushing, not them. So I'm going to shorten my reins up again. Nice for an inside flex, push the hindquarters away, and just softly ask for a bit of sideways. So I'm pretty happy with that. As you can see, Milton's starting to give me vertical flexion in the halter. I'm just going to see how he goes now, doing a little bit of walk and trot in the halter, asking for a vertical flex. And if he feels like he's soft and accepting, I'm going to take the next step and go to the bridle. So let's see if we can pick up a connection on two reins. Have Milton stay soft. Can he walk forward into that contact? Okay. That's pretty light there. I've got a little connection, but he's not pushing. Don't want him too short in the neck, but want a nice flex. Can he trot? Hold it for a few strides. Hold a little flex here. Seems pretty happy to do so. And can he yield, hold that flex? And I'll just see if he can do the same thing going the other way. I'll just give him a loose rein, a little rest for a minute, and see if he can hold that flex the other way. This is a big deal for a horse. He's got a predator on his back, looking down at his poll, which is probably his most vulnerable part of his body. In the wild, if a lion was going to attack a zebra or a horse, they would try and bite this area of the horse's neck. That's where the spinal cord is closest to the surface. So for a horse to expose that part of his body to us requires a huge degree of trust. And we should never force this. Otherwise we'll have a horse in that frame in a very unwilling state of mind. Can he yield? Okay, that's feeling pretty soft. Loose rein, say thank you, Milton. So now it's time to put the bridle on and introduce the bit. And I'll show you now how we'll go about that. Okay, you can see here I've now got Milton's bridle on, but I still have the halter on. Milton's only had a handful of rides with the bit, and most of those have been without reins attached. So once Milton was accepting of my leadership, my cues, my communication in the halter, and he was relaxed and comfortable with his own movement and with movement around him, and he could start to respond reasonably well on an accurate pattern, I allowed him to wear the bit over the halter for a few rides without any reins attached, so he could just get used to the feel of the bit in his mouth while he was moving. He's now up to the stage where he's wearing reins. And so he's had a couple of rides with the reins, and he's not quite fully accepting, so he's going to be a good example for you guys to see the natural progression from the halter to the bit. So I'm going to make sure, when Milton's relaxed there and finished yawning, that I can take a lateral flexion with the bit when I ask, rather than when he's scratching himself. So I'm going to pick up my rein and see if I can slowly run my fingers down and have Milton flex to the bit. Okay, that was pretty good. Give him a release. Allow him to soak on that. You notice starting this at very low energy, just like we started at the beginning with riding in the halter. So can I take a lateral flex this way now, Milton? Close the fingers one at a time. Wait for him to respond. I'm not going to rush this because he's got a big career ahead of him in something, and I want to make sure that whatever he's going to do, he's going to be comfortable with the bit and not have any negative experiences that cause him ongoing stress. So he's able to flex to both sides with the feel on the bit. Can I ask for a flexion? Same side. Slowly close my fingers and move his hindquarters a couple of steps with my leg while holding a flex. Yes, he was able to do that. I'll just move away a little bit from the camera here. We could be too close. And can I do it on this other side? Can I flex him this way? Oops, he's anticipating the other side. He says, I think I know what's going on. My leg hasn't gone on yet, so I'll wait for his feet to be still before I ask for the hindquarters to move. Now I'll ask the hindquarters to move with my leg and see if he can hold the flex. Pretty good. And a release. Can he follow a direction? So if I just pick up the rein and take it out to the side, other way, Milton, to the right, can he move his front end across? Pretty good. Good job. So that was right rein and left leg. Now I'm going to go left rein and right leg. So I'm going to reach down with my left hand, right leg, and can he move his front end over for a feel on the left side of his mouth? It's just like when he had the halter on. Good. Okay, and that's pretty good. If Milton was getting confused, what I might do is pick up both the rein and the halter rein and say, can you do it for both? So can you follow a feel over? So he's feeling the feel on the nose band of the halter as well as the bit in his mouth. He's already familiar with the cue on his nose, so it's helping him understand what it means when he has that same feeling in his mouth. Same thing for the backup. I'm going to pick up on both the reins and say to Milton, can you back up and relax? Then I might say to Milton, can I pick up a feel on the, whoops, nearly lost our rein there. Scoop it back up. I'm going to say to Milton, can we back up with just a feel on the reins? So I'm going to pick up a feel on the reins, slowly close my fingers, and then ask him to back up with my seat. And if he's a little bit stuck there, I'll just tap him softly on the shoulder with the whip and release. So good job. Okay, he's got the added challenges of flies here, but I'm sure he'll cope. And I'll just ask for that back up one more time because he's a little bit distracted there. So let's pick up a feel on the rein, ask for the feel, then ask for the back up with the seat. And a little support with the stick if he needs it. That was better. Good job. So now I'll ask him to walk forward back on his accurate pattern and ride with the halter and the bridle. Same thing, I'm not going to ask him for too much vertical flexion just yet. I'm just going to make sure he can give me a lateral flex though, an inside flex. Pay attention, still looking at those jump wings. So I just need an inside flex here. And I'm holding it as if, holding the reins here as if I was riding in a double bridle. Okay, my little finger is controlling the bit and my ring finger has got the feel on the halter. I'm going to ask Milton to trot. Pretty good. And just make sure he's happy to trot around. Inside leg here. Thank you, respond, thank you. Go sitting there and just use a slightly strong grade. And see if he can accept a downward transition. Feel on the outside, walk forward. Next thing I'm going to ask Milton to trot on and see if he can land the plane wearing the bit, or sideways on the circle. So trotting at this marker. Inside leg, inside rein. And I'm going to shorten all my reins up. It's a bit of a juggling act here. So I've got a feel on the bit and the halter. See if you can accept that little feel for a few strides. And then I'm going to ask for an inside flex and yield Milton sideways on the circle till he feels soft. Hold the feel for a little minute and relax. Good job. And can we go forward? So it's quite a a slow process, but it doesn't take long if we just take it slowly at the beginning. It might take a dozen rides in the halter and the bit, in the halter and the bridle, to help the horse understand and make that transition. But in the long run, if we ask a little at the beginning, allow the horse to build his confidence gradually, he's not going to have a lot of mouth problems down the track. So I'm going to shorten my reins up, have a feel on the halter and the bit, inside flex, and move Milton sideways till he's soft. Hold the feel, relax, and walk forward. Now I'm going to do a little test here and see if I can trot on the circle with just the bit. If he gets confused or he's running into trouble or he starts to lean or pull on the bit, I'll just help him out with the halter again. But this just will test out and see where he's at and how he's going. All the same things, he needs to give me an inside flex, respond to that inside leg. I'm not asking for vertical flexion at this stage, but I am asking for an inside flex. And he seems to be responding pretty well to the feel on the right rein. So when we get to the top half of the circle, I'll see if he can do the sideways on the circle exercise with just the bit. So we take up the reins, take an inside flex, leg goes on. Oops, a little bit too much flexion there for a stride. But that's not too bad for the start. Hold a little feel for a moment and relax. Pretty good. Walking forward and see how he goes on the circle to the left. And I'd wait for Milton to be fairly confident in the trot before I cantered him only with the reins. He's a little bit unsteady in the transition to sideways on the circle from the trot. So I'd want that to be a little bit better before I cantered with the reins only. So for my canter work, I'm going to use both the hackamore and the reins attached to the bit. So asking Milton to trot off. Keep an inside flex, so inside leg and inside rein. Just a little inside flex here. That's enough for now. Then can I shorten up both reins? And just with the bit, can I ask for an inside flex and ask him to go a little bit sideways on the circle. Wait for him to be steady in the hand. And release. So he's still a little unsteady, but not too bad. So let's see if he can canter wearing the bridle, but with both the hackamore and bridle reins guiding him. So let's put the stick on the outside in case we need to help that outside hind leg canter. Ask him to trot up and ask for canter. Sit back, outside leg back. Thank you, Milton. We'll ask for that again. It's a little bit unruly. Outside rein back to trot. And we'll ask for right canter again. So sit down, outside leg back. That was better. Good. And back to trot. And can we land the plane sideways on the circle? Inside flex. Okay, he's a little bit stuck there, so I need to quickly move my whip over and say, come on, don't push on my leg. Good. And can we go off the other way? And can we trot on? Okay, it's just pushing on my inside leg there, so I'm going to say don't push on my leg and take a little correction, but mainly using the hackamore rein here rather than the bit. So don't push on my inside leg. Good job. And off we go. Make sure everything's working and canter off. Oh, bit of a cough. Just make sure I have an inside flex. And back to trot. Trot forward for a little bit. And shorten up all the reins and into our yielding pattern. And halt. And release. Good job. So that gives you a little bit of an insight as to how we make the transition from riding in the halter to riding in the bridle. The next thing we're going to show you Rocky, who's been through this entire process. He's now quite comfortable and established in the bit, and with maintaining vertical flexion at walk, trot and canter, he's by no means a finished horse, but he's on his way to starting to do a little bit of more engaged work and more collected work. So with Milton, he probably has a few more weeks with the hackamore and the bridle together, and then he'll be off and running in the bit. To this point, you've seen that we've prepared our horse on the ground, made sure everything was working there before we hopped on. We saddled politely, mounted. We established communication at low energy, walk, trot, then canter. We helped our horse become more used to higher levels of energy with our passenger riding, and then we're then able to ride out in large open spaces, walk, trot, canter, a few jumps on a nice loose rein and have the horse stay relaxed. You then saw with Milton how we started to work on accurate patterns, getting transitions to happen on a marker, and establish a more solid language of communication. So we started to refine the communication. He was then ready to have the bit introduced, and we rode both with the halter and the bit to get Milton used to the bridle, and started to establish soft feel, or Milton starting to work on the bit. Now I'm going to show you with Rocky, who's a little bit more advanced than Milton, how we would work on the same accurate patterns, but now start to ride with a little bit more engagement and have our horse ride with a connected rein on the bit, working on that same pattern. So off we go, over to our witches' hats, which we used earlier. And I'm going to start with the same pattern, this sideways on the circle pattern, or landing the plane as we sometimes call it. Starting on a nice loose rein, I might ask Rocky to trot. I'm going to show him the pattern in a nice relaxed manner. Make sure he's not pushing it on the circle with my inside leg. Ask his nose to be tipped to the inside. Then I'm going to go from this loose rein to a connected rein position and ask Rocky to move sideways on the circle and accept a feel on two reins. When he feels soft, I'll ask him to come to a halt. Then I'm going to walk off forward through the circle, and I'll do a little change of direction. I'm going to ask Rocky to trot on again. I'm going to start to work with this nice connected rein here on this pattern. So Rocky's not quite warmed up yet. He's a little bit what I would call above the bit. I'd like him to be a little soft there. He's reaching forward now a bit with his neck. Same thing. Let's land the plane. Make sure he's soft and yielding on this side of his body. If I need to, I can support with my stick. Hindquarters are lagging a little bit there. There, wait for him to become straight and soft. Good, happy with that. Walk forward and trot on. We'll go the other way. And I'm just trying to help Rocky get nice and soft and relaxed. So these are probably what we'd call this is a suppling and stretching exercise rather than an engaging exercise, but I need to have Rocky nice and loose and supple before I ask him to engage. So I'll do a few of these patterns before we start more engagement. Okay, he landed a little bit on his front end there and hesitated in this sideways movement, but then he softened up and kept moving. And I'll ask for one more the other way. And I'm working mainly in rising trot at the start, just to get off Rocky's back. Okay, and he's a little stiffer to the left than he is to the right, but that's okay. As long as I'm aware of that, I know I can work with it. It's feeling a bit better there. And can we yield him sideways on the circle? On this side, the hindquarters tend to lag a bit more, his stiff side. Wait for him to soften up, his feet to get a little soft. There. Okay, I'm going to let Rocky off the hook for a couple of minutes. Nice loose rein. So thank you for that, because he was trying. Now I'm going to start to work with this pattern, just as I did with Milton, but do a few more advanced transitions, try and have Rocky a little bit more engaged than Milton was, and see what we can get. So again, I'm going to ask Rocky to accept a feel, come on the bit. So when I go to pick up the rein, I want to be sure that Rocky softens and gives it the pole rather than pushes against the bit or shakes his head around or twists his head. So I need to make sure he's comfortable and confident. Ask him to trot on. And I'm going to trot to this next marker and see if I can get a walk transition. Can he walk forward? A little bit of hesitation. Okay, so I need to be clear with my cues. He's hesitating a little in the walk there. There, can he walk forward, stretch his neck? And can we trot to the next marker? Have him stay soft in the upward transition. Still a little bit of hesitation in that downward transition. Rocky's what we call a short horse, or a horse that doesn't have much go. So the big challenge is riding downward transitions that stay nice and forward and energetic into the next gate. So he's still hesitating a little bit there in the walk. So that's something that needs to be improved. Into the halt. And I'm going to try and start riding some trot halt transitions to see how responsive Rocky is to my leg and how prepared he is to go from a halt straight up into the trot and stay soft and trot right into a halt. Not too bad. And then I might do a little change of rein through the circle. So bend to the right, focus ahead. Can I put my inside leg on, bend to the left, and ride into a halt. Establish the halt, and can we ride into a trot? Okay, not quite as good this side. He's not as soft, a little bit stiffer. Pushing to the inside, better there. Right into the halt. Fell on the forehand a little bit there. You could see him push it on the bit. So I need to sit taller, get my lower leg a little bit further back. Even if it takes a little longer to ride into the halt, I just need to get a better quality transition, even if it takes a little bit longer. I might go 2 markers this time just to get the trot a bit more forward and into the halt. That was better. And now I might ride forward in a bit of an energetic rising trot so that Rocky's thinking forward. And I'm going to try some trot canter transitions. Staying on my accurate pattern. Keep the trot forward in the sitting trot. Outside leg back. And ask for a canter. Again, I'd like Rocky to go a little bit more forward into that canter transition. Let's see if I can trot at this next marker. I might trot onto a 10-metre circle. And canter off. So with a circle with a couple of markers, there's a lot you can do to develop your horse. Ride back to my witch's hat, inside leg and outside rein. Can I change rein through the circle? inside leg, right leg, a bit of hesitation there for the moment. That's better there. Change my whip over. And see if we can canter at this witch's hat. Forward into canter. Need to be a bit more forward in that transition. Again, Rocky's a bit of a short horse, so the forward impulse in the transitions is not always easy to achieve. It's something we have to work on. And that's going to be the key for Rocky to improve his engagement. So keeping that forward desire in the up and the down transition. So that's my major project with him now. So he's staying pretty soft, accepting of the bit. Again, lost impulsion in that downward transition. See if we can ride him energetically forward for a little bit. A bit more of a forward trot, then up into the canter. We did run a little step into the canter, but the first stride of the canter was a little bit more forward. So that was good. Well, good enough for now anyway. Inside leg and outside rein, back to trot. And the reason I'm going into trot rising, again, is to encourage a little bit of forward in the downward transition. And now we'll ride into a halt. Again, I wasn't that happy with the halt, so I'm going to ride forward. There, the hindquarters feel a little bit more under Rocky's body, not quite square, but a little bit more engaged. I'm going to let him off the hook and walk him forward. So this is how we would use this circular pattern with witches' hats and markers for a horse that's a little bit more advanced. Our horse's mental, emotional and physical development is ongoing, and to help the horse develop we need to have a lot of consistency in what we do, in our communication, in our signals, but we also need to have enough variety to keep the horse's interest. And this variety can be anything from moving out into different situations, different types of terrain, different obstacles. We just need to make everything we do interesting for the horse. So I'm going to give you a few ideas now that are interesting for the horse but also aid in his physical, mental and emotional development.